Episode 1 of Outer Banks Season 4 starts 18 months back, before a teasing shot of John B standing with gold in his hands. It's been a wild ride, and there's still a lot of tension between our characters. Rose and Sarah are at blows because Sarah's sister believes she killed her father. JJ and Key find themselves shunned by the latter's parents, and the group are ready to see the back of treasure hunting, at least for a while anyway. The gold they obtained is transferred to cash, which works out to around 1.1 million for the group. So what are they going to do with the money? Well, Pope suggests they invest it into land and create an economy for themselves. The first step to that includes buying back the land from the bank. However, the group end up paying way over what they expected, thanks to one of the men riling up JJ at the auction. In fact, they basically splash 75% of their money and pay way over the odds. JJ is pleased with himself, but the others are not so sure this is a good idea. A montage then ensues as the group work to get the place fixed up. They do labour on the dock, hammering and drilling, and even fly their Pokelandia flag too. You see, JJ has never really had a home, so him paying over the odds for the land isn't quite so important as having a place to live with his friends, which are basically his family. The shop is eventually open for business, but of course, given the land is the most expensive cut on the island, they need to find some way to recoup their losses. Part of that comes from doing the best they can for any fishermen that show up in the area, and it doesn't take long for them to start making a decent living for themselves. With treasure hunting in the past, everything comes crashing down when Lady Luck rears her ugly head and frowns on the group. This stems from a strange guy whom we later learn is called Lightner, showing up asking about their treasure hunting and a place downriver very few locals visit. It's an unnerving encounter and one that sees John B rattled. However, the biggest issue stems from a storm that hits that night. It wipes out their fuse box, and without live bait, fishermen won't come in, so that basically destroys half their business. As a result of this, Pope tells them all that they need to make cutbacks. If they don't, they can kiss goodbye to what they've made. JJ decides to take their money and uses their last load of funds to bet on himself on the bikes. It's a huge gamble, and unfortunately this race is made all the tougher by Rafe showing up. He's fresh off scattering his father's ashes in the water and he's out for blood. John B has no choice but to enter too, with the goal here being to try and support JJ so they can secure extra funds, especially with Topper part of the fray too. Predictably, JJ doesn't win after collapsing off his bike, thanks in part to Rafe sabotaging his own chances too. Tensions are high as Rafe accuses John B and Sarah of killing his father, but that's the least of their troubles. Our group are completely and royally screwed now that they have no money. JJ's gamble backfires and it rips the foundations of their friendship apart. The local newspaper ends up writing about the group though, and as a result they're made heroes in town. Naturally though, they end up with a new proposition and a new treasure. That coming from Blackbeard. Remember that businessman called West from the end of season 3? Well, this is where they meet them, and the group are invited up to a strange house where the Great Seekers meet his son Chandler Groff. He invites them in as treasure hunting looks like it's back on the menu, baby. Episode 2 of Outer Banks Season 4 begins with Chandler Groff locking the front door and inviting the group into this dilapidated mansion. The group are unnerved, especially as the place is run down and covered in cobwebs. Wes does show up and offers a history lesson surrounding Blackbeard and Elizabeth. Wes claims he doesn't have much time after he was initially visited by a ghost. Cue sideways glances from our group. The others aren't quite sure what to make of this, but the gist of it is that the gang need to retrieve a keepsake, which happens to be an amulet, from Blackbeard's last ship called the Adventure. This has sunk nearby, and in doing so, this will help lift the curse that's befallen his family for the last 300 years. This amulet was apparently Elizabeth's most prized possession, and its location, as I mentioned, is somewhere off Goat Island. A secret lockbox hidden behind the headboard is its exact location on the ship, but this will involve some precarious diving. The group are offered 50k to do this, with 5k up front as a bit of a sweetener. Chandler tells JJ that he believes in him, and after taking the cash, the group head back to the mainland. Remember that Lightner fellow? Well, he shows up at a pirate museum and learns the exact location of Blackbeard's treasure from the man that works there. Looks like we have our antagonist for the season. Hollis Robinson shows up to see Rafe in the midst of this, and she happens to be a big admirer of his father and somewhat of an opportunistic snake too. She's been watching him with the real estate moves and has a development project cooking. She wants a partner in the field, and she wants that to be Rafe. She wants to syndicate that land off Goat Island sometime later that evening. She believes they can make a ton of money on this, laughing at Wes for believing the place is haunted and seeing this as a perfect opportunity to begin developing on the land. Speaking of property, the Pogues find themselves in hot water when they receive a letter from the planning committee who have decided to change the zoning of the land that they initially bought. Apparently this is a way of forcing owners out of the property unless they can pay up. In order to fight this, they're going to need way more than 5k. they're going to need the full amount from Blackbeard's treasure to come out on top. The boys sweet talk Boogie, a ship captain, into handing over his ship so they can get out to Goat Island that night, but unfortunately the only thing they have to trade is JJ's bike. He's reluctant to let it go, but eventually watches as Boogie rides off. While they have their boat, there's trouble down by the beach. A body is found in the sand with no identification but for a strange sigil on the wrist of a triangle with a trident inside. While the body is taken away by Shoop and the others, our treasure hunters work together and head out to the treasure spot. JJ and Key are the ones who intend to dive down, and for now they need clear heads, so that means absolutely no drinking. While JJ and Key dive down, searching for the ship, the tide turns and the group struggle to keep their ship steady. A thick fog consumes them just as another boat approaches. It's not the Coast Guards though, but more people after the amulet. Underwater, Lightner shows up and jumps JJ and Key, leading to a big scuffle between the trio. They manage to get out just in time, stabbing the man with a harpoon gun and hurriedly drive off in their boat. At the same time, the antagonists bring their man on board, who feeds back what's happened. Back on land, the group scramble to the hospital as JJ reveals that he managed to pick up the amulet after all. Due to their late night dive and lightheadedness though, the pair are tasked with spending 12 hours inside a hyperbaric oxygen tank to recover. While they do, Pope believes the rest of them should head back to Wes and hand over the amulet to get the money. The others agree, but unfortunately when they show up at the island they find the cops are already there. Shoop greets them when they dock, where he reveals that Wes has passed away and only Chandler is left alive. As they spoke to him the previous day, Shoop sees these kids as big suspects, and that's bad news for all involved. Episode 3 of Outer Banks Season 4 begins with Shoop questioning the group separately about Wes's death. The gang more than hold their own, but it's a bit weird that they're being questioned in the front room where the body was initially found. Surely this is contaminating the crime scene, right? Anyway, they're all truthful about how Wes thought he was cursed, but predictably they do lie about the amulet, of course. Chandler is not in a good way, and after the interviews he tells them how much of a shock this is. However, he's still going to honour the deal made for Wes's sake, and he wants the amulet. The others have a bad feeling about this though and don't hand it over, not trusting that he's being wholly straight with them. Given Groff still wants the amulet, the group realise there's more going on here than first meets the eye. After a lesson on nitric acid, the group manage to clear off the amulet and open it up, to find Arabic written inside. Sarah and John B drive off together to find one of John B's father's old friends. He invites them into the Islamic Center and agrees to check over the amulet. He confirms that the scripture is Kufic and it seems to be some sort of riddle. It's a message from Blackbeard to Elizabeth, and just like that he suddenly drops the amulet, scrambles backwards telling them it's cursed and that they need to leave. Well, that's not suspicious, is it? Remember the guy stabbed with a harpoon gun? Well, Lightner shows up at the hospital to get patched up. Unfortunately, one of the nurses ends up talking about JJ and Key night diving, and he immediately knows exactly who they are and where they're located. They lock eyes with each other, with the man menacing and clearly out for blood. JJ and Key realise the trouble they're in and are desperate to get out, but of course they're stuck there for 12 hours. The pair do manage to bust out and run, smashing the glass in the process, with JJ causing a big scene in order for Key to grab the patient file for this mysterious man. The group eventually reconvene, with Pope driving off with them. Within the file they have an address. This happens to be somewhere in downtown Pelican. Meanwhile, the autopsy report on Wes Jenrette reveals that he didn't die from natural causes. It seems he was strangled. And the man from the beach who was found? Well, he too has the same hand marks and strangulation. It seems we have a mass murderer on our hands. Pope and the others head down to downtown Pelican, where JJ and Key decide to act like they're on a date. They take their eyes off the ball though, and it doesn't take long for Lightner to show up. He speaks to a lady, who is called Captain in the subtitles for some reason, which Pope and Cleo spy from the beach. Pope decides to climb under the foundations that appear to eavesdrop, where he hears that the pair are apparently after something called the Blue Crown. He also knows that JJ and Key have the amulet and retorts the name of their boat. The four manage to slip away just in time before they're caught by Lightner, but it's clear that this confrontation is far from over. Part of this big plan includes Rafe. He and Topper discuss the property zoning and how that's going to impact the Pogues. Speaking of which, Sophia overhears Rafe bad-mouthing her behind her back, so she decides to take up Hollis's earlier offer in secret to convince Rafe into joining in as a partner on the property. She meets with Hollis and agrees to her offer of $25,000 in cash. As for Shoop, he decides to bring in Chandler Groff back for questioning to the station. However, we don't see much more of this storyline this episode. Sarah, meanwhile, does some digging into Elizabeth's history, including her ties to Morocco and how Blackbeard initially saved her. That blue crown mentioned before? Well, apparently it's the most sought after artifact in the ancient world. It's a real crown too and was created 3,000 years back and has been worn by some of the most famous people through history, including Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great. It was lost in the 1700s but rumoured to have been hunted down by, yep, you guessed it, Blackbeard. That amulet seems to be a key piece to figuring out the directions towards where it's located. While the group hang back home, Cleo heads out to the dock alone and finds herself blindsided by Leitner. She's tied up and taken off, where she comes face to face with none other than Captain Terrence from the second season. Episode 4 of Outer Banks Season 4 begins with Terrence and Leitner using Cleo's phone to message the group, pretending to be her to avoid suspicion. They claim she was on Poke Patrol when she's out looking for bait in the cut. Given there's no working on a swell day, Poke messages back that the shop is closed. Terrence is pleased and believes they just need to get Cleo to open up and they'll learn the location of the amulet. Easy peasy. Terrence speaks to Cleo in secret and reveals that he's working both sides. He's managed to talk Leitner and the others out of killing her, but if she wants to live, Cleo's got no choice but to trust him and speak up. Naturally, she doesn't, but it's clear that he's another cog in the wheel and he's not the one in charge. Cleo is brought back to land and choked out by Leitner when he loses his patience with her. However, just before she's killed, Terrence comes bursting in and manages to save her life. It rattles her though, as Cleo hurriedly points out that the others have the amulet. On the beach, Topper and his group show up right where John B and the others are, intending to antagonise them while surfing. Topper claims he's just looking to bury the hatchet and that they're even now, but of course there's a lot of tension between both groups. While Sophia works her magic on Rafe to play ball with Hollis, Pope tries to figure out the amulet riddle. After doing some additional research, it would appear that the clue may lie with Half Moon. If he can cross-reference Blackbeard with this, he may get lucky. Pope shows up at the Pirate Museum and wouldn't you know, there's an exhibit right there mentioning Half Moon, specifically Half Moon Battery in Charleston. At the station, Shoop interviews Groff. He hands over his phone and also brings up the amulet curse and how Wes hired the kids to bring it in for him. Apparently he just wants to get away from everything and even begins crying midway through the interview. Looking at his phone, Shoop confirms that it covers his location away from the house. However, Groff does incriminate the kids, throwing them under the bus and claiming that they were nearby. Cleo rings Pope in the middle of this and hurriedly tells him to bring the amulet to the bunkhouse, otherwise she's going to die. Pope rushes over to save her life. So where are the others for all of this? Well, they're on the beach surfing and then watching baby turtles head down to the water. Of course, Topper and the others are our evil group and cause chaos when they drive right over them. Kiara is not happy, but JJ manages to convince her to stand down. JJ though promises to kill them all, which is recorded on video. Speaking of killing, Pope shows up just in time at the house with seconds to spare. Leitner is impatient and looks to kill Cleo anyway until Terrence ends up in a scuffle with him. Leitner shoots Terrence and takes off with the amulet, leaving the big man for dead. When the others return, they're shocked when they find out what's happened. Unfortunately, they have blood in their hands, and quite literally when it comes to Pope, and it doesn't take long for Shoop to show up at the bunkhouse. With the dead body in the living room, they're not sure how to handle this. Episode 5 of Outer Banks Season 4 begins with John B making his choice and deciding they should hide the body. JJ heads outside and distracts Shoop, while the others clean up the place and hide Terrence behind the sofa. They make it just in time as the group are cleared out so Shoop can talk to JJ in secret. The others realise the gravity of their situation and try to compose themselves. However, Shoop has a copy of the video from the Kooks, who recorded JJ's death threat, as we know. Shoop doesn't want to charge him for this, but does want his help. He has a ton of photos from the dead bodies, including the strange sigil and the strangulation that he shows him. Shoop is taking this very seriously and he wants to know where the kids were on Saturday. JJ lies and claims he was just hanging around with the others fishing. Eventually he leaves, but JJ feeds back to the others that Wes's death is being looked at as a murder. He tries to convince them they have nothing to worry about, but they most certainly do. It's a silly lie to be honest, given they'll have records from the doctors for Key and JJ being treated, along with a reasonable time frame to confirm they were night fishing at the time of death. They could incriminate Leitner here, given he was patched up, and it would get the kids off the hook, or at least show they're cooperating and not being super suspicious. But of course, confirming all this would diminish the dramatic tension, so they don't do that. Shoop instead decides to have them closely watched. Meanwhile, Rafe signs his deal with Hollis and she tells him that he's going to be meeting the partners soon. He also refuses her advances too, much to Hollis' surprise, claiming he's doing this for him and Sophia, obviously unaware that Sophia has double-crossed him. Rafe apologises to Sophia down on the coastline and there's an awkward moment between them as they hug, and Sophia realises what she's done. While this is going on, the group decides to do right by Terence and continue on this treasure hunt. They're heading for Charleston very soon, but they're not the only ones, as the captain and Leitner arrive in town and begin looking about. It doesn't take long for John B and the others to realise they're being followed, so they slam on the gas and manage to evade capture and suspicion. They have Terence wrapped in a body bag, which the police believe is a bag of oysters for some reason, and eventually drop Terence in the ocean and say their goodbyes. Back at the bunkhouse, JJ receives a letter from Wes. It's handwritten and delivered personally from that strange man down near Goat Island from episode 1. Shoop is actually keeping a close watch on JJ though, who reads the letter and races off, leaving a note for the others that he's apparently running an errand. Shoop inevitably follows JJ. Part of this mission though includes finding his dad, who happens to be chilling out with Barracuda Mike all this time. JJ hands over Wes's letter and asks him for help deciphering exactly what it means, specifically in speaking to him about something called Albatross. When Shoop shows up, Luke promises to explain everything, so JJ reluctantly lets him jump back in the boat and head back to Pokelandia. Meanwhile, Rafe arrives and speaks to Key at the shop. He wants to chat to Sarah, but Key is playing hardball. She holds a knife though to protect herself, as Rafe claims to be on their side, of course you are, and not here to stir up trouble. He hands over his business card and tells her to get Sarah to call. Over in Charleston, John B, Sarah, Pope and Cleo try to retrace Blackbeard's steps, heading inland and looking for clues. Well, that soon comes to them in the form of the North Star appearing within stained glass on the church. They soon find the entrance to a crypt inside, which happens to be under the altar. Pope and Sarah head down while Cleo hangs back. In the basement, Sarah and Pope do some digging and find a hidden section in the wall. They crawl through a claustrophobic passage to a larger chamber. Unfortunately, they end up locked inside as the walls close behind them. John B looks around the graveyard while this is going on and finds Routledge's gravestone, which brings back memories of his own father. He's soon distracted by Leitner and his boss, who look for an angel to show the way forward. The duo do find a way into the catacombs via a coffin adjacent to this angel. They use the amulet to unlock it and get inside. Leitner and his boss head down, prompting Sarah and Pope to hide. As they do, Leitner and the captain open up a coffin and find a scroll inside. This is apparently what they're after, and it could well be a map of some kind. Leitner and the captain leave via the route they arrived, using the amulet to lock up the coffin so no one else can follow. Unfortunately, when Pope and Sarah make it to the ladder, they find themselves stuck, and even worse, they realise that the water level seems to be rising. Outside, Cleo ends up fighting with Leitner, who chokes her out once more. John B watches as they race off, with the captain demanding they get out of there given the police could be inbound. Not wanting any more bloodshed on their hands, John B lets them go. Back on the mainland, JJ and his father head all the way up to the top of the lighthouse. There, Luke admits that the Albatross is the name of the boat Larissa Jenrette died on. Luke is not his blood-related father either, and his real mum is actually Larissa. That means that JJ is the real inheritor of Goat Island and the heir. His father, well, is none other than Chandler Gross, and as we cut across to him, we see that Chandler's working with, yep, it's Hollis, which is where episode 5 comes to an end. Episode 6 of Outer Banks Season 4 starts with JJ reeling over that bombshell reveal of his true parentage. Flashbacks flesh out more of this, as Luke was actually working as a gardener for Chandler Groff at the time. He just wanted to help, and with Larissa dead, Groff palmed off his child to Luke to look after. JJ refuses to believe all of this, given it doesn't add up to Luke being Dad of the Year, as he insinuates from his recollection. But for now, he runs away from the lighthouse and heads home. JJ regroups with Kiara, recapping the inheritance story and how he's Groff's son. JJ is convinced this is just another scam. Meanwhile, John B and Cleo help Pope and Sarah out of their predicament. They break the coffin lid by kicking over a stone grave next to it, because apparently that's just a simple thing to do. It's followed up by a sledgehammer shot or two, and the pair manage to get out. They're thrown a rope, despite there being a ladder they could climb right next to them, and the group are free to go. After this trying ordeal, the gang regroup back home and talk about the Blue Crown. This is overshadowed by the zoning issue though, given they don't have a lawyer and need someone to represent them to fight their corner. Kiara brings up that Rafe was sniffing about and left his business card, and Sarah goes to see him. Rafe refuses to help with the zoning, but points out the inheritance that Rose is currently keeping from them. He sold that gold cross from before, and the money has been stretched thin. He wants to team up with Sarah to get Wheezy back, but she disagrees and eventually leaves. While Sophia gets cold feet about her plan, Groff and Hollis discuss the inheritance and their current plan for Goat Island. They're obviously working at odds with Leitner and Dahlia, the British women from part 1, who are one step closer to finding the crown. However, they have unfinished business to finish on Kildare. The town meeting goes ahead and it seems the council have already voted unanimously to rezone the area. They're not even going to discuss it, but John B does step up futilely to give an impassioned speech about the losses they're experienced. All of this means nothing because apparently there's an injunction to invalidate their auction sale. A pre-existing note from the owner was in the process of being finalised when this took place. The bank wasn't legally allowed to go to auction, but they did. So that means the sale is invalid, and Luke is responsible for part of this. A big fight breaks out, orchestrated by JJ, who ends up running from the mob outside, stealing jewellery and smashing up shop windows. When the cops arrive, he bolts. The police struggle to get things under control as the mob show up, deciding to loot the shops and follow JJ's example. JJ is not there though, as he ends up over at the Realtors. John B and the others follow, as does Shoop. He calls in all available units to get to ZZ's rather than trying to stop the looting and control the rioting, and eventually they end up surrounding the Realtor building. Pope serves as a distraction, tackling an officer and getting arrested for his troubles. This serves as a decent distraction for JJ though, who manages to get out and flee from the scene. He gets a boat and heads over to see Groff at the mansion. Now, Groff is already there with Rafe, whom he has signed the documents. He promises to come after Groff if he's screwing him, but of course we know that he is. And that is where episode 6 comes to an end. Episode 7 starts with JJ confronting Groff about Wes's letter. Groff throws shade on Luke's parenting and points out that his own son drowned and they never found the body. However, they're interrupted when Leitner and Dahlia show up on the island. He hands over a gun to JJ and the pair are forced to flee from Leitner's goons as they begin sniffing around the mansion. The pair sneak down to the dock where JJ finds the Albatross. This is the same boat that Larissa allegedly drowned on, and it happens to be a little skiff. Leitner is not far behind them though. Just like that, Groff admits to being JJ's father, but it comes at the wrong time, as Leitner catches up and apprehends them both. As they're bundled on a boat and brought to Dahlia, Groff points out that Leitner and the others are mercenaries from North Africa. They think Groff stole from them, but all of this is allegedly a misunderstanding, and the whole coup involving the ghosts and hauntings with Wes was an elaborate ploy and not real. Guess we're not going the Uncharted route after all, guys. Groff left JJ because after Larissa's death he wasn't in a good place. He apologises for not thinking things through, and apparently he came back to help JJ here. The crown is their family's legacy, and Groff wants JJ's help in retrieving it back. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang frantically look for JJ. Pope is on the verge of a court trial and could face jail time, and for now he needs to stay home, away from his friends and wearing an ankle monitor. There is a deal to be made here which includes dropping all charges in exchange for him joining the Marines. It's either that or jail time. Pope decides to hell with this and hangs out with Cleo instead. As for Sarah, she grabs a pregnancy test and yep, turns out she's pregnant. She tells Kiara, who reassures her, but Sarah's obviously pretty rattled. Outside, John B is similarly rattled by Topper, who antagonises him over the land and how the Cougs are just dirty looters. The gang arrive at Goat Island though, where they find Leitner's goons still lurking about, but on their boat this time. They hang back and seize the right opportunity to pounce, while Dahlia speaks to Groff. She sheds more light on what's going on here. Apparently, Groff was actually in jail in Tangier and she helped get him out. After welcoming him into the group with open arms, Groff betrayed them, stealing the captain's log and killing the man they sent after him. Groff left this man to rot in the dunes, explaining who the body belongs to out in the sand that Shoop found several episodes back. Ever the opportunist, Groff backstabs JJ on the boat and claims he was the one who killed the man in the dunes. Just before the pair are killed, John B tries to throw a Molotov but instead ends up hitting their own boat. The second time, they manage to slingshot it over to the boat, while all the guards on top just watch them without firing their guns. Anyway, through all of this, Dahlia and Leitner slip away, while the gang are reunited and get away in a boat, and only now do the guards decide to fire on them. However, more importantly, the gang do manage to get the scroll leading to the Blue Crown. Groff also survives and he heads out the water, unhappy and determined to get revenge, as episode 7 of Outer Banks comes to an end. Episode 8 starts with a group looking over the map while smoking weed, except for Sarah for obvious reasons. They're back in Pokelandia after escaping and they find themselves confronted by Groff. He's back and has nowhere else to go. When he calls JJ's son, the truth is obviously revealed here. He knows the scroll is encrypted and also the name of the group after them. They're the Lupine Corsairs, and after stealing from them, Groff helps to fill in some of the blanks. The map can be decoded, but they need to work together to dig into Larissa's grave to bring in something called a lens. Here we also learn that a blue crown is apparently a mythical artifact that can be used as a dangerous weapon to grant wishes. Groff's not interested in the magical element though, but he just wants the treasure, and that seems to be inside a hidden vault within a desert. So I guess we're jetting off to Africa then, but first they need to get that lens. Taking a slight break from everything, Sarah reveals the truth to John B about her pregnancy. Similarly, JJ speaks to Kiara about how Groff is his father and he's convinced on this now, given their similar demeanours. However, Groff receives a message from Dahlia telling him he knows what to do, so it looks like a double cross is on the cards here. Pope leaves for the Marines, but he changes his mind at the last second and rushes back home. As he does, he ditches his ankle monitor. Groff and JJ head off together while all this drama is going on, and over at the station, Shoop gets a lowdown on the mercenaries from Africa we've been seeing. Anton Finch seems to be the big boss here, and he's an arms dealer. He's been giving money to the state in exchange for taking bad seeds out of jail before sending them to combat zones. Their sigil is a trident with a triangle around. Groff and JJ head to Genret Cemetery and head into the mausoleum together. Groff decides to ring the police and claim someone is sneaking about, and it could be JJ. JJ himself is not sure grave robbing is a good idea, but Groff convinces him to carry on. Just before they open the coffin, he leaves JJ to do it alone, who is obviously unaware that the cops are en route. Groff speaks to the officer when he shows up and uses this as a distraction to grab the lens and take off away from JJ, who's left hiding inside the mausoleum twiddling his thumbs. Groff heads back to grab the map. Armed with everything he needs, Kiara tries to stop him, but Groff knocks her out and bundles her in the chest freezer instead. Groff returns to JJ and after taking his phone, arrives to confront Hollis. She's not happy that he lied to her, given Goat Island is in the process of being deemed a nature reserve and not what he initially promised Ray. She also knows that he's not the heir and threatens to tell Shoop where he was the night Wes died. Hollis knows he wasn't with her, and with a gun pointed at him, she calls him fraud. To distract her, Groff does the old "look over there" trick, and when she turns her head, Groff pounces and kills Hollis. With his accomplice gone, he takes the money and gun, dumping the latter in JJ's van to make it seem like he killed Hollis. They have keys to a boat, so they take that and off they go. At the same time, there's drama involving Sarah and John B as they find themselves reunited with Pope before they too head out on a boat. When they return home, they free Kiara and track JJ's location out on the water. Groff is not stupid though, and he knows JJ's friends are after him. He throws JJ's phone overboard by accident, and they use the lens, which shows off a location called Mogador on the map. JJ is similarly not to be trifled with, and he immediately realises something afoul here. He also knows Larissa didn't drown, given he's seen the body himself and knows Groff killed her. Groff realises JJ is catching on to him and he throws the kid out in the middle of the water to drown. "So long, Jackson," he says, before returning to Dahlia and Leitner. This, I may add, was foreshadowed earlier in the season when Groff mentioned his kid drowned at sea. It's a small inclusion, but certainly a welcome one to tie things together. At the station, Rafe shows up and he's not happy. He wants to report Groff and Hollis as he's been scammed out of 400k. Shoop though knows that Groff is one of the Lupine Corsairs, or at least used to be, and his alibi is resting on shaky foundations. Shoop starts to put the puzzle pieces together and realises Groff is the one they need. Meanwhile, the gang regroup and manage to find JJ in the exact spot in the ocean Groff dropped him off. They head back to land and try to come up with their next plan of action as the episode comes to an end. Episode 9 of Outer Banks Season 4 starts with Groff ringing the police, getting them to check on Hollis. They scour the area and obviously find her dead along with a planted vehicle and gun. Shoop has his suspicions on this being JJ's handiwork, but all the same, he starts to tighten the screw to get him back, specifically by sending Maritime to cut off all egress around March Point. The gang hide from the police when they show, as the pieces slot into place for JJ. He realises that Groff killed Hollis as they slip away on a boat, evade the police, and head to the other side of the island. They need a boat to sail out to Morocco, and here's as good a place as any to start. They inevitably attract interest from the locals though, including Rafe. The police are in hot pursuit, but Shoop learns more about Groff in the process. He's wanted by Interpol and has had 5 fake passports and been married 4 separate times too, all under different names. The gang flee from the scene, but they have a busted boat, so they're kinda stranded. That is, until Rafe gets involved and ends up saving them from the officer. He has his own reasons for wanting to go after Groff, stemming from getting the money back. Before he leaves, however, Rafe proposes to Sophia. It's a proper awkward moment though, as Sophia is trying to explain that she's responsible for him losing the money. She can't say it, eventually decides to stay quiet, and concedes to the pair getting married. Rafe promises to be back in a few weeks. Shoop shows up to see the group first, with his newfound knowledge around Groff and what's been happening on the island. He wants the courts to decide everything, thing, believing that's the best course of action here. Furthermore, he has a warrant out for both JJ and Pope, so he's just basically doing his job. Rafe shows to save them both though, bringing up the truth around Hollis and how Groff is the big fish here. Rafe has a way with words, and after all, Shoop's job is on the line here, given all the chaos that has taken place this season. He strikes a deal and Shoop goes for it. On the boat, John B and the others head in to talk to Rafe. He wants peace and isn't looking to double cross them, as long as they don't do the same to him. Rafe promises to get them to North Africa where he'll get Groff. Just like that, JJ shows and smacks him across the face, double crossing him and bundling the guy in the cabin below. When John B brings up that Sarah is pregnant to JJ, the latter twists things around and starts ranting about how bad a father he's going to be. This all stems from asking JJ to be the godfather to their child, and it rubs him up the wrong way. John B is not happy, and JJ has definitely got under his skin here. Over in Morocco, Dahlia keeps a tight leash on Groff. Leitner is going to keep watch and make sure he's behaving while they're en route to see Anton Finch, who certainly won't take any funny business from him. Back on the water though, the group get closer to reaching Morocco. However, they end up riding right into a massive storm. The waves are monstrous and they're not in a good way, prompting them to free Rafe to help. JJ also shows up to save Sarah, who ends up overboard, and he jumps in to save her life. The boat is in danger of capsizing, and as they make it to shore, JJ and Sarah also make it there the following day, and everyone is reunited, ready for the big finale. Episode 10 of Outer Banks Season 4 sees us off in Morocco for this epic finale. After camping out and hanging for a while, the group walk through the desert to town. JJ is surprisingly cheerful as they aim to reach Essaouira. They need to find Groff's boat and then figure out where they're heading. It's a tough walk, but they eventually make it to the main square. It's cramped, crowded, and they find themselves caught in tight winding alleys. JJ notices a statue for Murad that could hold a crucial clue, and Kiara agrees that this is a sign. Sarah needs to sit down though, and she feels nauseous. So the gang head off on a little sub-quest to get some food by stealing from the locals. The authorities are alerted though, and unfortunately, Rafe ends up apprehended. The others are quick to abandon him, so when the vendor points out that John B and the others are the real culprits, Rafe flies solo. It turns out he has a waterproof bag with money and his passport too. I mean, it kinda serves them right for treating Rafe that way after he saved their asses. Rafe buys himself some clothes too, along with a knife, and rings Sophia to find the address on the pen Groff gave him. This is in Essaouira, of course, and he spies Leitner and Dahlia not long after. They head in to see Groff, who tries to play them, until Leitner gets smart and beats him down. They head up to the rooftop together, where Groff tries to get the jump on Leitner. Rafe soon shows and gets involved though. He beats down Leitner, stealing his keys and taking off with Groff. He demands the money he owes and reminds Groff not to try any funny business, threatening that he knows where Groff lives. Groff hits back though and brings up that Sophia betrayed him, being the one responsible for him losing his money. As the two skirmish, Rafe pushes Groff into a well and takes off. He rings Sophia and demands she leave the house. The others steal clothes to blend in with the locals and head to the wharf. They find Terence's boat there, the one Groff and the others used to get to Morocco, and both Sarah and John B head inside to find some clues. However, JJ notices one of the mercenaries sniffing around and he tries to give a look out to the others. Unfortunately, it occurs right around prayer time, so the noise of him banging on the drums is drowned out. Kiara serves as a distraction while John B and Sarah find pictures piecing together the map. They eventually do hear the signal and scramble out just in time. Well, kind of. JJ stops the mercenary from shooting the pair when he spots them with papers in their hand, and they all slip away in a stolen jeep that Cleo grabbed. As they head off, all roads lead to the same destination. En route though, they wind up passing the well that Groff is stuck inside. JJ shows and he has a final word to his dad. He rejects him as a father but drops him some water to help save the guy for a while until someone else helps out. Next, they march on to Agapenta. Rafe gets there first, followed closely by John B and the group. However, Dahlia and Leitner arrive pretty much in sync and fire warning shots, managing to apprehend Rafe. However, Sarah shoots first, distracting everyone as they all race after the map. Everything converges inside Agapenta as Dahlia and her goons race after Rafe and the others. Here, Sarah opens up about what really went down with their father and with Singh. He obviously died protecting her and she wants them to work together. Eventually he agrees, but Rafe wants his cut of the treasure too. With a plan in place, the group find themselves in a race against time with a sandstorm incoming. The map gets them nowhere, but the pictures Sarah and John B took earlier on certainly do. There's a translation that reads, "At the dawn of the day, touch the earth to reach heaven." John B figures it out, putting the map up to the sky, and he realises it's right next to them. It's a lion statue. Trouble may be brewing though, as Groff manages to get out of the well and hitches a ride to Agapenta. As he does, the sandstorm blows in, and with time of the essence, JJ decides he's going to climb the statue and retrieve the treasure to save everyone else. Meanwhile, Pope and Cleo find themselves hunted by Lightner, who is eventually shot dead. At the same time, Sarah saves John B when he's choked out by a random mercenary. Rafe buys the group some time while JJ manages to find the treasure. The blue crown is wedged inside the statue's eye, and he realises it's actually real. Unaware that Dahlia is lurking around, he takes the treasure and hops down, only to be immediately hunted by Dahlia and Groff. Groff returns and holds Key up at knife point. He demands JJ hand over the crown, and he does just that. Groff points out that it's a shame things have turned out the way they have, and then goes ahead and stabs JJ before leaving. Bleeding out, JJ reveals that he's already got his wish, which is basically the friends they made along the way. It's a shocking turn of events and actually ups the stakes too, killing off a main character in this fashion. As the group mourn his death, Groff slithers off with the crown, presumably to Lisbon. This is obviously far from over, and the others are dead set on finishing this once and for all. The death of JJ raises the stakes in this series in a big way, and it's something that I wish more shows would do. Pulling the trigger and killing a main character means nobody is safe, and every action scene feels that much more tense and suspenseful as a result. While I'm not happy that we basically spent 90 minutes just to be back at square one again, albeit with the treasure found but still us on the hunt, there's at least some progress being made with the characters. It would appear that Pope's ordeal with killing Lightner is not going to be resolved here, as he may well have PTSD from killing him, but to be honest, that was a pretty lame death for him. He was killed off screen and with no fanfare, despite initially seeming to be the big bad all along. Dahlia is okay, but she's basically been kicked off the set of EastEnders and thrown in here with a British accent and not a lot of backstory. And we still haven't caught a glimpse of this arms dealer who's apparently overlooking everything too. However, there are some good scenes here, and the show definitely makes a good case for its final season, which promises to be a very tense and emotional affair, especially if this episode is anything to go by. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.